Jake Morrison walked into the big metal room where all the alien leaders sat. The room was huge and round, with seats going up high like stairs. Strange creatures from all over the galaxy filled those seats. Some looked like giant bugs. Others had too many arms or eyes that glowed in the dark. The air smelled bad from all the different aliens breathing together. Jake wore his best blue suit with the Earth flag on his chest. Behind him walked Lisa Harper and Rick Barnes. Lisa carried a thick folder full of papers. Rick kept his hand near his weapon, even though no fighting was allowed here. They had been coming to these meetings for 3 years now. The meetings always went the same way. The aliens would make new rules that hurt humans. They would say humans were too young and too wild to be trusted. They would take away more of humanity's rights. Today felt different, though. Jake could feel it in his bones. High Counselor Vex Thar stood up from his big chair. He was a Zenthari, which meant he looked like a giant lizard that walked on 2 legs. His skin was dark green and covered in scales. When he talked, his voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. All the other aliens got quiet when he spoke. "The human species has caused too much trouble," Vex Thar said. His words came out slow and cold. "You spread too fast to new worlds. You build too many ships. You ask too many questions about things that do not concern you." Jake felt his hands turn into fists. 3 years of this garbage, 3 years of being treated like children who could not take care of themselves. Earth had been part of the Galactic Council for only 10 years, but in that time, humans had helped solve more problems than most alien species solved in 100 years. When the crystalline people had a plague that killed their computers, humans fixed it in 2 weeks. When the fish people's cities started flooding, human engineers built new pumps to save millions of lives. When space pirates attacked trade ships, human soldiers fought them off while other aliens just watched and complained. But none of that mattered to the Council. They only saw humans as a threat to their power. "The Council has made its final choice," Vex Thar continued. His yellow eyes looked right at Jake. "All human military ships must leave this part of space. You can keep only small ships for moving people and goods. No weapons bigger than what a single person can carry. No new colonies without our permission. No research into advanced technology without our watching." The room got even more quiet. Jake looked around at all the alien faces staring at him. Some looked happy about this news. Others looked worried. A few seemed scared, though Jake could not figure out why they would be scared. "There is more," Vex Thar said. "Humans will place observers from other species in all your important government buildings. They will watch everything you do and report back to us. They will make sure you follow all our rules." Lisa stepped closer to Jake and whispered in his ear, "This is it. They want to control everything we do. If we accept this, we will never be free again." Jake nodded. He had been expecting something like this for months. The Council was afraid of humans, but they were too proud to admit it. Instead of working with Earth as equals, they wanted to put humans in a cage. Rick moved closer, too. "Sir, my people back home will not accept this. The military will never agree to give up our ships. The colonies will not accept alien spies in their governments." Jake knew Rick was right. Earth had grown strong in the past 10 years. Humans now lived on 200 worlds across 50 star systems. The human military was small compared to the big alien fleets, but human soldiers were smart and brave. They found ways to win fights that others said were impossible. More important, humans had built things the aliens needed. Human companies ran the shipping routes that moved goods between different species. Human doctors had cured diseases that alien medicine could not touch. Human engineers designed machines that worked better than anything the aliens had built in 1,000 years. But the Council did not want to admit they needed help from the young species from Earth. "We will give you 1 day to answer," Vex Thar said. "Accept our terms or face the consequences." Jake stood up straight and looked around the room one more time. He saw the Avian Republic representatives with their feathers and beaks. He saw the rock people who barely moved when they breathed. He saw dozens of other species, all waiting to see what the human would do. "I do not need a day," Jake said. His voice was loud and clear. "The United Earth Federation rejects your terms completely." The room exploded with noise. Aliens started, making angry sounds in languages Jake did not understand. Some stood up and waved their arms or tentacles or whatever they used for hands. Others started talking fast to their neighbors. Vexthar raised one clawed hand and the noise stopped. "Then you choose to face our anger. The Council will make you regret this choice." Jake smiled for the first time in months. "No, we choose to be free. The United Earth Federation formally withdraws from the Galactic Council. All agreements between Earth and the Council are now ended. All human citizens and businesses will leave Council space within 30 days. The silence that followed was complete. Even the air recycling systems seemed to stop making noise. "Furthermore," Jake continued, "any attempt to force human compliance will be seen as an act of war." Jake turned around and walked toward the door. Lisa and Rick followed him. As they left, Jake could hear the aliens behind them starting to panic. Their voices got louder and more worried with each step he took. Outside the meeting room, Lisa grabbed Jake's arm. "Do you think we just made a terrible mistake?" Jake shook his head. "No. We just gave ourselves a chance to be what we really are, instead of what they want us to be." Rick was already talking into his communication device. "This is Barnes. Execute Protocol 7 immediately. All human assets are to withdraw from Council space. Authorization Morrison Alpha." As they walked to their ship, Jake felt lighter than he had in years. The Council thought they were punishing Earth. They had no idea they had just set themselves up for destruction. Pete Sullivan stood on the bridge of Mining Station 7 and watched his crews pack up 3 years of work. The station floated in space around a dead planet full of rare metals that 17 different alien species needed for their technology. For the past 3 years, human miners had dug up tons of these metals every day and shipped them all over the galaxy. Now the humans were leaving. "How long until everything is packed?" Pete asked his assistant, Mary Johnson. Mary looked at her. Computer screen. "Another 6 hours for the big machines. The alien workers want to know if they can stay and keep mining." Pete laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. "Tell them good luck. Without our equipment and our knowledge, they will be lucky to dig up enough metal to fill a small box." The communication system made a beeping sound. Pete pushed a button and the face of an alien appeared on the screen. It was Zekmor, the trade representative for the Crystalline Confederation. His crystal body was flashing red, which meant he was upset. "Pete Sullivan, you must not leave," Zekmor said. His voice sounded like music, but worried music. "Our computer networks need the quantum processors your people make. Without them, our entire civilization will shut down in 2 weeks." Pete shrugged. "Not my problem anymore. Take it up with the Council. They are the ones who kicked us out. But the Council said you were just one species among hundreds. They said the galaxy could work fine without humans." "Then I guess you will find out if they were right," Pete said and turned off the communication. Mary looked worried. "Pete, are we really going to let their computers break? Millions of crystalline people could die if their networks fail." Pete felt bad about that, but he had his orders. "Mary, for 3 years we fixed their problems while they treated us like garbage. We saved the fish people when their cities flooded. We cured the plant people when their disease killed half their population. We stopped the pirates when they attacked trade ships. And what did we get for it? More rules, more restrictions, more aliens telling us we were too dangerous to be trusted." The truth was that Pete had seen this coming for months. Earth's government had been quietly preparing for the day when the Council would push too hard. Human companies had been slowly moving their most important equipment and workers back to human space. The smart people in charge had been ready for this moment. But the aliens had not been ready. On the waterworld of Oceanus Prime, Captain Amy Rodriguez was loading the last human-made fusion reactor onto her cargo ship. The fish people called depth dwellers had built their underwater cities using human technology. Without the reactors, the cities would lose power and millions of fish people would have to live in the dark, cold water. The depth dweller leader, Chief Tide Runner, swam up to Amy's ship in a special water suit. "Captain Rodriguez, please reconsider. Our people have been allies of humanity for years. We voted against the restrictions on your species." Amy felt sorry for the fish people. They had been good friends to Earth, but her orders were clear. I'm sorry, Chief. All human technology and personnel must return to Earth space. The Council made this choice, not us. But what will we do without the reactors? Our cities will die. Amy pulled out a data pad and handed it to the fish person. "These are the technical plans for the reactors. If your people can build them yourselves, you are welcome to try." Chief Tide Runner looked at the plans. Even with the translation device, he could not understand most of what he was reading. The technology was too advanced for his people to copy. 3 star systems away, Dr. Helen Martinez was shutting down the medical research station that had been working on cures for alien diseases. The station had been built in space between several different species' homeworlds so that scientists from all races could work together, but most of the scientists were human. "Dr. Martinez," called Professor Bloomleaf, one of the plant people scientists. "You cannot leave now. We are so close to finding a cure for the Red Death Plague. Without human knowledge of genetics, the research will take us 50 more years." Helen packed her research files into sealed boxes. "Then you have 50 years to figure it out." The Council decided they did not need human help anymore. Professor Bloomleaf waved his branch-like arms. "But the Council members do not understand science. They only care about politics and power. The Red Death has already killed billions of people across 12 different species." "I know," Helen said sadly. "I have been working on the cure for 2 years, but the Council thinks humans are too dangerous to be trusted with advanced research. So now you get to do it without us." All across the galaxy, the same scene was happening, over and over. Human engineers were shutting down the faster-than-light communication networks they had built. Human pilots were leaving the shipping routes they had mapped and protected. Human soldiers were pulling back from the border worlds, where they had been fighting off pirates and raiders. The aliens had not realized how much they depended on human skills and technology until the humans started leaving. On the trade station, called Nexus Prime, Emergency Coordinator HFY was getting bad news from every part of the galaxy. She was a member of the Avian Republic, which meant she looked like a giant bird with hands instead of wings. "Coordinator, we have 17 different species reporting major problems," her assistant reported. "The shipping lanes are breaking, down without human logistics companies. The defense networks are failing without human tactical software. 3 different star systems are asking for emergency help." HFY felt her feathers standing up with stress. "What about the other species? Can they not take over the jobs that humans were doing?" Her assistant looked at his reports. "No, Coordinator. Most species specialized in only 1 or 2 types of work. The humans were the only ones who could do everything. They could fight and build and heal and create and organize and adapt to new problems." For the first time, HFY began to understand what High Counselor Vexthar had done. The Council had built their civilization around human abilities without realizing it. Humans had become the foundation that held everything together, and now that foundation was gone. "Get me a communication link to Earth," HFY ordered. "I am sorry, Coordinator, but Earth is no longer accepting communications from Council space. They have blocked all contact." HFY sat down heavily in her chair. Through the big windows of the station, she could see alien ships floating dead in space because their human-made engines had broken down and no one knew how to fix them. Thou. Galaxy was falling apart, and it had only been 3 days since the humans left. Admiral Steve Carter stood on the bridge of the UES Freedom and read the message that had just arrived. The big human warship was floating in space just outside the border of what used to be Council territory. Steve had been ordered to stay there and watch what happened next. He did not have to wait long. The message was from General Clixtor of the Reptilian Defense Force. Steve remembered Clixtor from the Council meetings. The alien general had been one of the loudest voices demanding that humans give up their military ships. "Admiral Carter," the message began, "the Void Reapers have attacked our outer colonies. 3 star systems have already fallen. We need human help to stop them. Please respond immediately." Steve looked at the message for a long time. Then he deleted it. "Sir," said his second-in-command, Commander Bill Foster, "should we not help them? The Void Reapers are dangerous to everyone, including humans." Steve turned to look out the big window at the stars. "Bill, 2 weeks ago, General Clixtor voted to take away our right to keep military ships. He said humans were too violent and could not be trusted with weapons. Now he wants our help fighting a war." Commander Foster nodded. "I understand, sir, but innocent people are dying." "Yes, they are," Steve agreed. "And they are dying because the Council thought they could handle galactic security without human help." The truth was more complicated than Steve was letting on. Earth's government had been tracking the Void Reapers for months. The Human Intelligence Network had seen the attack coming and had warned the Council 3 times. Each time, the Council had ignored the warnings and said that humans were just trying to scare them. Now the Void Reapers were doing exactly what the humans had predicted they would do. The Void Reapers were not like the civilized species of the Council. They lived on big ships that traveled from system to system, taking whatever they wanted and destroying everything else. They had no permanent homes and no desire to make peace with anyone. Most important, they fought in ways that the Council species did not understand. On the planet New Sparta, Colonel Lisa Warner watched through her binoculars as Void Reaper ships landed near the main city. The planet was supposed to be protected by a joint defense force from 3 different alien species, but the defense force was losing badly. "Why are they losing?" asked Lieutenant Dan Roberts, who was crouched next to Lisa in their hiding spot. Lisa handed him the binoculars. "Look at how they are fighting. The aliens are using the same tactics they have used for 1,000 years. They line up their ships and try to outgun the enemy. But the Void Reapers are not playing by those rules." Dan looked through the binoculars and saw what Lisa meant. The Void Reaper ships were small and fast. They would attack from one direction, then disappear and attack from somewhere else. When the alien defense ships turned to face them, the Void Reapers would already be gone. "It is like they are playing a different game," Dan said. "Exactly. And the aliens do not know how to adapt. They just keep doing the same thing over and over, even though it is not working." Lisa had seen this before. Human military doctrine was built around flexibility and adaptation. When something did not work, humans would try something else. When the enemy changed tactics, humans would change too. But the alien species had been fighting the same way for so long that they could not think of new ideas when they needed them. On the command ship of the Reptilian Defense Force, General Clixtor was learning this lesson the hard way. His fleet had 50 ships, each one bigger and more powerful than any Void Reaper vessel, but he had lost 15 ships in 2 days and had not destroyed a single enemy craft. "General," said his tactical officer, "the Void Reapers are using hit-and-run attacks. Our heavy ships cannot catch them." General Clixtor slammed his clawed fist on the command table. "Then we will build a wall of ships they cannot get through." "But, sir, they just go around our formations. And while we are making walls, they attack our colonies behind us." The general's scales turned dark red with anger. "Then what do you suggest, officer? Should we just give up?" The tactical officer was quiet for a moment. Then he said the words, that General Clixtor did not want to hear. "Sir, we need human help. They know how to fight enemies like this." Back on the UES Freedom, Admiral Steve Carter received another message. This one was from the Avian Republic's defense minister. "Admiral Carter, the Void Reapers have broken through our defensive lines. Our worlds are defenseless. Surely humanity will not stand by and watch innocent people die." Steve looked at the message and made the same choice he had made with General Clixtor. He deleted it. "Sir," said Commander Foster, "how many messages is that now?" 12 different species begging for help," Steve replied. "The same species that voted to restrict our military just 2 weeks ago." The communications officer looked up from her station. "Admiral, we are getting reports that the Void Reapers have taken 5 star systems now. The alien fleets are in full retreat." Steve nodded. He had been expecting this. Without human tactical coordination and adaptive strategies, the alien species were fighting as separate groups instead of as a unified force. Each species was using its own methods and not sharing information with the others. The Void Reapers, meanwhile, were treating the whole campaign as one big operation. They moved like a pack of wolves, hitting weak points and avoiding strong defenses. "Sir," said Commander Foster carefully, "Earth's government has authorized us to intervene if the situation becomes critical to human security." Steve looked at his second in command. "Bill, the Void Reapers are not heading toward human space. They are only attacking Council territories. This is not our fight anymore." But even as he said it, Steve knew that was not entirely true. If the Void Reapers conquered the entire Council region, they would eventually threaten human worlds too. The question was whether Earth wanted to save the aliens who had just tried to destroy human independence. On the planet of the Crystalline, Confederation Chief Scientist Quartzmind watched his computer networks failing one by one. Without human-made quantum processors, the Crystal People's technology was breaking down. And without their technology, they could not coordinate their defense against the Void Reapers. "How long before complete system failure?" Quartzmind asked his assistant. 3 days, Chief Scientist. After that, we will have no long-range communications, no advanced sensors, and no automated defenses. Quartzmind's crystal body flashed with despair. The Void Reapers would attack his world in 5 days. His people would be fighting blind and deaf against an enemy that moved like lightning. Have the humans responded to our requests for help? No, Chief Scientist. They are not answering any communications from Council space. For the first time in his long life, Quartzmind understood what his people had lost when they drove the humans away. It was not just technology and military support. It was the one species in the galaxy that could adapt to any challenge and find solutions to impossible problems. Now those solutions were gone, and the galaxy was paying the price. High Counselor Vexthar looked around the council chamber and counted only 37 members present. 2 weeks ago, there had been over 200 representatives from different species across the galaxy. Now, most of the seats were empty. Few aliens who remained were shouting at each other instead of working together. The big round room that had once been a symbol of galactic unity now felt like a market full of angry merchants fighting over scraps. "The Avian Republic demands that the Crystalline Confederation share their defensive technology," squawked Defense Minister Hawkclaw, her feathers puffed up with anger. "We cannot share what we do not have," replied Chief Scientist Quartzmind, his crystal body flashing red. "Our technology fails because we need human-made processors. Without humans, we have nothing to share." From across the room, Trade Leader Bubble Stream of the Depth Dwellers made angry bubbling sounds. "Both of you species voted to remove human rights. Now you complain when humans are gone. This is your fault, not ours." Vexthar tried to bring order to the meeting, but his voice was lost in the noise of arguing aliens. Species that had worked together for centuries were now blaming each other for the crisis that was destroying their civilization. The truth was that removing humans from the Council had exposed problems that had been hidden for generations. The different alien species had never really learned to work together as equals. They had simply followed the lead of whoever was strongest at the time. For the past 10 years, humans had been the ones making the hard decisions and solving the difficult problems. Humans had been the bridge between species that could not understand each other. When conflicts arose, human diplomats found ways to make peace. When crises occurred, human experts found solutions. Now that bridge was gone. "Order!" Vexathar finally roared, his voice echoing off the metal walls. "We must work together, or we will all fall to the Void Reapers." Work together? Chief Tide Runner of the Depth Dwellers stood up, water dripping from his environmental suit. "Your people, Vexthar, led the vote to restrict human expansion. You said humans were too dangerous to be trusted. Now those same humans are the only ones who can save us, and they will not even answer our messages." Vexathar's scales turned dark with shame. "I believed we were protecting galactic stability. I did not know how much we depended on human abilities." The communication system in the chamber made a beeping sound. An image appeared on the big screen showing Admiral Kethvar of the Reptilian Defense Force. His ship was badly damaged, and there was fear in his yellow eyes. "High Counselor, the Void Reapers have taken the Kepler system. My fleet is retreating to the Centauri colonies, but we cannot hold them for long. Where are the reinforcements you promised?" Vexthar looked around the chamber at the few remaining council members. "Admiral, the other species are protecting their own territories. No one wants to send ships to help defend reptilian worlds." "Then the Centauri colonies will fall within days," Admiral Kethvar said. "After that, the Void Reapers will have a clear path to attack any world they choose." The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in silence. Emergency Coordinator HFY spoke up from her perch near the ceiling. "Perhaps it is time to admit that we were wrong about the humans. Perhaps we should ask them to return to the Council." "Ask them?" Trade leader Finn Scale of the Aquatic Alliance laughed bitterly. "They will not even accept our communications. Why would they want to return to the organization that tried to control and limit them?" Across the galaxy, other problems were getting worse every day. On the industrial world of Factory Prime, the automated manufacturing systems had shut down because they needed human-designed computer programs to function. Billions of people across dozens of species were running out of basic supplies like food, medicine, and power cells. The Crystalline Confederation's computer networks had failed completely, leaving their worlds isolated and unable to communicate with each other. The rock people called the Silicon Collective had lost contact with most of their mining operations because human engineers had taken their technical knowledge with them. Most serious of all, the old rivalries between different species were coming, back stronger than ever. On the trade world of Commerce Station, fighting had broken out between avian and reptilian merchants over access to the last remaining human-built cargo ships. Without human logistics companies to organize shipping routes, different species were competing violently for transportation. The war between the insect people called the Hive Mind and the plant people of the Garden Worlds had started again after 50 years of peace. Human diplomats had been the ones keeping that conflict from exploding, and now those diplomats were gone. President John Walker sat in his office on Earth and read reports about the chaos spreading across the galaxy. His chief of staff, Director Kate Phillips, had been giving him updates every few hours about the collapse of Council civilization. "Mr. President," Kate said, "we are receiving thousands of requests for help every day. Some species are offering to pay enormous amounts for human assistance. Others are threatening to attack human colonies if we do not help them." President Walker looked tired. "What do our intelligence services say about the threats, General?" "Barnes says most of the alien military forces are too busy fighting the Void Reapers or each other to threaten us seriously. The few species that might be dangerous are too dependent on human technology to risk making us angry. Walker nodded. And what about our colonies? Are our people safe? Yes, sir. The human colonies outside Council space are doing well. Our military is strong enough to protect them, and many alien refugees are asking for permission to settle in human space. Walker stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city of New Geneva. Kate, do you think we made the right choice by leaving the Council? Kate joined him at the window. Sir, the Council was never going to treat humanity as an equal partner. They saw us as useful servants, not as fellow civilized beings. If we had stayed and accepted their restrictions, we would have become a species of slaves. But millions of innocent people are dying because we left. Millions of innocent people were already suffering under the Council's system, Kate replied. The Council created a galaxy where some species had all the power and others had none. They kept wars going for centuries because it benefited the ruling species. They prevented scientific and social progress because change threatened their control. Walker was quiet for a moment. What do you think will happen now? Kate looked out at the busy streets full of humans and friendly aliens working together. I think the galaxy will have to learn what humans learned a long time ago. Real civilization is not about one group controlling everyone else. It is about different people working together as equals to build something better than any of them could build alone. In the Council chamber on Nexus Prime, the arguing continued as more species announced they were leaving the Council to try to survive on their own. Vexithar watched his dream of galactic unity crumble around him and finally understood the terrible mistake he had made. The humans had not been a threat to galactic civilization. They had been its salvation. And now they were gone. 6 months after humanity left the Galactic Council, the galaxy looked completely different. Commander Bill Foster stood on the observation deck of the UES Horizon and watched a long line of refugee ships approaching the human colony of New Hope. Thuxi. Ships came from dozens of different species. Some were the crystal people whose computer networks had failed. Others were fish people whose underwater cities had lost power. Many were just ordinary families from worlds that had been destroyed by war or economic collapse. How many refugees this week? Bill asked his communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Davis. Over 10,000, Sarah replied. And more ships are arriving every day. Some of these people have been traveling for months to reach human space. Bill nodded. The refugee crisis had been growing since the old Council territories started falling apart. Unlike the rigid Council system that had divided people by species, human colonies welcomed anyone who wanted to work hard and follow basic laws. On the surface of New Hope, engineer Kate Phillips supervised the construction of new housing for the refugees. Her construction crews included humans, crystal people, fish folk, plant beings, and even some of the rock people who rarely left their home worlds. Kate, called Chief Architect Bloomleaf, one of the plant people who had been working with humans for 3 months. The new designs are working perfectly. Mixed species housing is actually more efficient than single species colonies. Kate smiled as she watched a group of human and alien children playing together in the construction site. That is because we design for people, not for species categories. The old Council had kept different species separate, claiming it was for cultural protection. But Kate had learned that most species worked better when they could share ideas and learn from each other. 3 star systems away, Captain Amy Rodriguez was establishing a new trade route between the reformed Crystalline Confederation and the Independent Depth Dweller Republic. Both groups had left the collapsed Council and were now working directly with humans to rebuild their civilizations. Captain Rodriguez, said Chief Scientist Quartz Mind over the communication system, the new quantum processors your people helped us build are working perfectly. Our computer networks are stronger than they were before the crisis. Amy checked her navigation charts. That is because we designed them to be maintained by your own people instead of depending on outside experts. You will never have to worry about losing your technology again. This was the key difference between the new galactic order and the old council system. Instead of making other species dependent on human technology, humans were teaching them how to build and maintain their own advanced systems. The results were impressive. Species that had been stagnant for centuries were now making rapid scientific and social progress. The fish people had developed new underwater farming techniques. The plant people had created medicines that worked on multiple species. Even the rock people had started experimenting with faster communication methods. On Earth, President John Walker met with his new Galactic Relations Coordinator, Ambassador Jake Morrison. Jake had been promoted after successfully managing humanity's withdrawal from the Council. "Jake, what is the latest situation in the former Council territories?" Walker asked. Jake pulled up a holographic map showing the galaxy. Most of the space that had once been controlled by the Council was now colored in different patterns representing independent species governments, multi-species alliances, and free trade zones. The old Council controls less than 10% of its former territory, Jake reported. Most species have either formed their own governments or joined one of the new alliance groups. The Void Reapers were eventually stopped by a joint force of humans and reformed alien militaries. Walker studied the map. "What about High Counselor Vexthar and the remaining Council loyalists? They are still meeting on Nexus Prime, but they have no real power. Most of their former member species will not even talk to them anymore. The few species that remain loyal are mostly asking us for help with their problems." Walker leaned back in his chair. "Have we decided how to respond to those requests?" Jake nodded. "We are offering the same deal to everyone. Any species that wants to work with humanity can do so, but only as equal partners. No more master and servant relationships, no more species hierarchies. Everyone contributes according to their abilities and receives according to their needs." This new approach was working better than anyone had expected. When species were treated as equals instead of being ranked in order of importance, they were more willing to share knowledge and resources. Wars between different groups had almost stopped because humans served as neutral mediators who did not favor any particular species. Dr. Helen Martinez, now serving as Director of Interspecies Medical Research, was working on the new Geneva space station with scientists from 15 different species. Together, they had already found cures for diseases that had been killing people for thousands of years. "Dr. Martinez," said Professor Bloomleaf, who had become one of her closest research partners, "the Red Death Plague has been completely eliminated from the Garden Worlds. This is the first time in recorded history that an interspecies disease has been permanently cured." Helen smiled as she looked at the mixed group of human and alien scientists celebrating their success. That is what happens when people work together instead of competing against each other. The old council had discouraged cooperation between species, claiming it was dangerous to mix different types of knowledge. But Helen had discovered that the biggest scientific breakthroughs came from combining the unique perspectives of different species. Back on Nexus Prime, High Counselor Vexthar sat alone in the mostly empty council chamber. Only 5 other representatives remained, and even they were talking about leaving to join the new alliance groups. Emergency Coordinator HFY approached Vexthar's chair. "High Counselor, I have received another message from the human ambassador. They are offering to include the remaining council species in their new galactic partnership program." Vexthar's scales were pale with exhaustion and defeat. "What are their terms?" "The same terms they offer everyone else. Equal partnership with no special privileges for any species. All members contribute to shared projects and share in the benefits. Decisions are made by democratic voting rather than by species hierarchy." Vexthar was quiet for a long time. "HFY, do you think we were wrong about the humans?" The avian coordinator ruffled her feathers sadly. "High Counselor, I think we were wrong about everything. We thought civilization meant controlling others and preventing change. The humans have shown us that real civilization means working together to build something better. On the human colony world of Freedom Station, former Council refugees were building the first mixed-species university in galactic history. Students from dozens of different species learned together in classrooms designed to accommodate every type of biology. Commander Lisa Warner, now serving as the station's security chief, watched human and alien cadets training together for the new galactic peacekeeping force. This military organization was very different from the old Council fleets. Instead of enforcing the will of powerful species on weaker ones, the peacekeeping force protected trade routes, stopped piracy, and helped settle disputes peacefully. "Commander Warner," said Cadet Zekmore, a young crystal person who had become one of the best tactical students, "the mixed-species training programs are producing much better results than single-species military academies." Lisa nodded as she watched human and alien cadets working together to solve a complex battle simulation. That is because real problems require different types of thinking. When you combine human creativity with crystal precision and plant patience and fish adaptability, you get solutions that no single species could find alone. As the sun set over Freedom Station, Lisa thought about how much the galaxy had changed in just 6 months. The old system of fear and control had been replaced by one of cooperation and mutual respect. Wars were ending. Science was advancing faster than ever before. Different species were learning from each other instead of fighting. Most important of all, no one had to live in fear of being controlled by others anymore. The humans had not conquered the galaxy or imposed their will on other species. Instead, they had shown everyone a better way to live together. They had proven that civilization was not about who had the most power, but about how well different people could work together to solve problems and build a better future. As commander, Bill Foster looked out at the stars from the bridge of the UES horizon. He smiled. The galaxy was finally becoming the place it had always had the potential to be. A community of equals working together toward common goals. The age of galactic hierarchy was over. The age of galactic cooperation had begun.